Have you ever heard of the year without a winter? Or a tsunami that appeared out of nowhere, with no earthquake felt beforehand? It sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but this actually happened. For centuries, a mysterious ghost tsunami that struck the coast of Japan in the year 1700 was a puzzle that baffled historians and scientists. Indigenous peoples in North America passed down legends of a terrifying night when the land shook and the sea rose to swallow entire villages. But for a long time, no one could connect the dots. What single cataclysmic event could link these seemingly separate occurrences across the vast Pacific Ocean? The answer lies in a geological secret that was hidden for over 300 years, a story of a day the world, for many, was reset. This is the incredible story of the Great Cascadia Earthquake of 1700. Let's travel back to the dawn of the 18th century. In Japan, meticulous record keepers documented everything. On January 27, 1700, they recorded something bizarre. Waves, much larger than usual, suddenly surged onto the shores of Honshu. Houses were damaged, rice paddies were flooded, and the coastline was battered. But the strangest part, there was no warning. Normally, a tsunami is preceded by a powerful earthquake that everyone can feel. This time, there was nothing. The ground didn't shake. The sky didn't fall. It was as if the wave had been born from a calm sea. They called it an orphan tsunami because it had no apparent parent earthquake. For generations, it remained an unsolved mystery. Where did this phantom wave come from? The answer was hiding thousands of miles away on a continent that most of the world barely knew existed. Across the Pacific, in what we now call the Pacific Northwest of North America, indigenous communities have lived for millennia. Their history isn't written in books, but woven into rich oral traditions, stories passed down from elder to child, generation. Many tribes, from the Yurok in Northern California to the Kwakwakak in British Columbia, tell stories of a cataclysmic night. The details vary slightly from tribe to tribe, but the core elements are chillingly consistent. They speak of a violent, prolonged shaking of the earth that happened in the middle of the night. It was so powerful that people couldn't even stand. The ground liquefied, and entire villages built on the coast simply sank into the mud and sand. One of the most vivid accounts comes from the oral traditions of the Maka and other coastal peoples. Their stories describe how, after the shaking finally stopped, the ocean receded, pulling back far beyond the lowest tide line, exposing the seabed. The wise ones knew what this meant and urged everyone to flee to higher ground. Then, a massive wall of water, a colossal wave, returned with unimaginable fury, sweeping away everything and everyone who hadn't escaped in time. These weren't just scary stories told around a campfire. They were historical records, warnings of the immense power of the land and sea. But for centuries, these accounts were considered myths by outsiders. It would take modern science to finally prove that these ancient stories were, in fact, eyewitness testimony to a real and terrifying event. The breakthrough came from an unlikely field, dendrochronology, or the study of tree rings. In the 1980s, geologists were exploring the coastal regions of Washington and Oregon. They found something strange. Along the shoreline, they discovered entire ghost forests, stands of massive, dead red cedar trees, many still rooted in the mudflats. These trees had clearly all died around the same time. But what could have killed a whole forest so suddenly? The answer was in the soil. Scientists realized that the land these trees were growing on had abruptly dropped. The ground subsided so quickly that the forest was plunged into the saltwater tidal zone, poisoning the roots of the freshwater-loving cedars and killing them almost instantly. By analyzing the tree rings, scientists could pinpoint the exact year the trees died. The last full ring they formed was for the growing season of 1699. They died before the spring of 1700 began. This gave researchers a precise date for the event. Sometime between the fall of 1699 and the spring of 1700, a massive geological event caused the coastline of the Pacific Northwest to suddenly sink by several feet. This was the smoking gun evidence of a mega-earthquake. The pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to come together. The ancient stories of the land shaking and sinking were true. The ghost forests were the silent monuments to this catastrophe. But could this event be linked to the orphan tsunami in Japan? The final confirmation came from connecting the American geological evidence with the Japanese historical records. Geologists knew that a mega-earthquake of this size would generate a massive tsunami that would travel across the entire Pacific Ocean. Using computer models, they simulated what would happen if a massive earthquake struck the Cascadia Subduction Zone. This is a huge fault line that runs for over 600 miles, from Northern California to Vancouver Island, where the Juan de Fuca tectonic plate is being forced underneath the North American plate. For centuries, this fault had been locked, building up incredible stress. The models predicted that a full rupture of this fault would create a tsunami that would cross the Pacific and reach Japan in about 9 to 10 hours. When they ran this simulation, the results were astonishing. The predicted arrival time and wave height in Japan perfectly matched the historical records of the orphan tsunami from January 1700. The timing was exact. The earthquake must have occurred around 9 p.m. local time on January 26, 1700. The resulting tsunami traveled across the ocean, reaching Japan on the morning of their January 27th, the mystery was solved. The indigenous stories, the ghost forests, and the Japanese records all pointed to one single colossal event, a magnitude 9 earthquake, one of the most powerful in recorded human history. Let's try to imagine the sheer scale of this event. A magnitude 9 earthquake is almost impossible to comprehend. The shaking would have lasted for 3 to 5 minutes, not seconds, but minutes. It would have been 1,000 times more powerful than the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake in San Francisco. The ground didn't just shake, it liquefied. The entire coastline from California to Canada dropped by as much as 6 feet in an instant. Within minutes, the tsunami generated by this quake would have slammed into the North American coast. It wasn't just one wave, but a series of them. Some possibly reaching heights of over 100 feet in certain inlets and bays, wiping entire communities off the map. This was the day the world reset for the people of the Cascadia coast. The story of the 1700 Cascadia earthquake is a powerful reminder that our planet is a dynamic and sometimes violent place. It's also a testament to the importance of listening to all forms of history. For centuries, the truth of this event was preserved, not in written texts, but in the oral traditions of indigenous peoples and the silent rings of ancient trees. Modern science didn't discover the earthquake. It only confirmed what these other records had been saying all along. It highlights a beautiful synergy between ancient knowledge and modern scientific inquiry. The oral histories provided the human account, the living memory of the catastrophe, while geology provided the physical evidence and the precise timing. Today, we know that the Cascadia Subduction Zone is not dead. It is still active, and stress is building up once again. Geologists believe that great earthquakes, like the one in 1700, happen, on average, every 300 to 500 years. It has now been over 320 years since the last one. This isn't meant to scare people, but to inform and prepare them. Understanding this history is crucial for the millions of people who now live in cities like Seattle, Portland, and Vancouver. Thanks to the detective work of countless scientists and the preservation of ancient stories, we now have a much clearer picture of the risks and can take steps to build more resilient communities. The ghost tsunami of 1700 is no longer a mystery, but a vital warning from the past, echoing across the centuries. What an incredible story of scientific and historical discovery. It just goes to show you how interconnected our world is, and how clues to the past can be found in the most unexpected places. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden stories that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what you think. Did you know about this giant earthquake before? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.